Okay. There we go. That should work. So, before we dive into stuff today, how's everybody doing? People doing alright? I don't know. We'll wait for whoever's gonna show up to show up. If you were around on Thursday, the jaw is still an issue, but it's not as much of an issue. If need be, I have the heat pack over here that I can deploy as needed, and I realized that I was gonna be happier with the sweater option if I just knitted it, so I'm doing parts. So we'll see how it turns out after that. But yeah, so that's how stuff is going around these parts. Yeah. So yeah. Also, just a heads up, there is. It's not discussion of the event per se, but there is discussion of like dealing with PTSD from an assault that was brought up 2 weeks ago in the text, chapter 6, I want to say. So, something to be aware of. You're just finish this row. We'll dive into it. Yeah, so if you hear a bunch of like weird background noise, that's the air, because it's hot. Is what it is. But yeah, let me know if the mic's not picking up my voice as much. Just from this little bit, it's probably, I'm probably gonna need to bust out the hot pack in not too long, because I'm starting to kind of feel it. But yeah, it's a lot better though, which is good. So, that being said, okay, so as you can see over yonder here, we're talking about chapters 9 and 10 of Daughter of the Forest. If you are not familiar with Botany Book Club, my name's Ren. We talk about plants, plant-related things, botanical tangents, all in the form of literary analysis and other sundry shenanigans. Okay, it's like, what? There we go. So this week, we've got, as you can see up yonder there, chapters 9 and 10. So we are so it's 10 of 16. So yeah, we're essentially coming to the third act conflict, which chapter 11 starts at like a pivotal moment, so that would make sense. Not gonna get into that today, but just know that it's a thing. Yeah. Anyway. So. So. We've got. Yeah. Up to this point, just as a recap, up to this point, we've got Sorcha, who is known currently as Jenny, because no one knows who she is or her name or anything about her aside from she was found in the forest, and has gone through some stuff, you know. Red is like the main love interest, who is also the head of the community that she's now in. Whose like official name is Hugh, but she calls him Red. Most of his friends call him Red. And Red's uncle Richard is probably fully responsible for Simon, his brother, disappearing slash dying slash whatever ended up actually happening to him, because at this point he's just kind of faffed off to the middle of the forest and we don't know exactly what happened, just based on how people who have gotten lost in the forests of Sevenwaters tend to fare, which is not great. Just putting that out there. It's reasonable to assume that he's been dead for a while, but there's no confirmation at this point. And Richard's being creepy as hell to literally everybody, and seems to think that it's hilarious when the female members of staff like cower in fear when they have to deal with him. So like that's the kind of person we're dealing with here. Yeah. So fun times. Meanwhile, Sorcha, aka Jenny, still can't talk because she's working on the Starwort shirts to attempt to bring her brothers back from their cursed lives as swans. Yeah. So. It's like. There we go. So. Chapter 8 ended with. Where were we? Where were we at that point? Okay, Sorcha has 3 of the Star Wars shirts, and yeah, and we're just finding out that Red thinks that his uncle had something to do with Simon disappearing, and Richard is trying to convince everyone that Simon, who was like the most junior member of the entire troop, which, you know, seriously, like, the youngest person there, because he was 16, and Richard's nephew, which, like, you would think that someone would at least protect the younger members of your party, if not, actual family members, you know? Apparently, that's just not how he rolls. Like, at all. Being real suspicious in literally everything. And that's how chapter 8 ends. So 9 starts up with Sorcha getting ready for her brothers to show up at midwinter. And she's stressing about it because she's in a new place. Because, like, at this point, she hasn't had to deal with one of the one of the midpoint marker days, either midsummer or midwinter. Up to that point in this new location. So, like, A, are they gonna be able to find her? B, like, would the trip be too taxing because, like, they're already dealing with a whole bunch just hanging out in Ireland, and, like, to have to get to Britain somehow would potentially be a lot, especially if they're flying over, like, hostile territory and whatnot. So there's that happening. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So she's kind of worried about it, but also kind of not, because magic and stuff. But it's also an unknown, so like seriously. And she's trying to kind of make sense of the new situation she's finding herself in, on top of like dealing with the everything else that she's going through, and how being like literally mute in particular situations is messing with her. And we've got situations like with basic health and stuff, where she's friends with like Marjorie, and she's friendly with like other people there, and because they tend to see foreigners, specifically people from Ireland, as like heathenous savages, she's not allowed around Marjorie, who is pregnant and dealing with a whole lot of issues with the pregnancy, because it's like the kids breach, meaning that they're coming in like backwards essentially, and Sarek is the only one who knows how to deal with that, but she can't talk, so is having a hard time trying to relay how to do much of anything, and has to just like wing it herself. But is only able to get the clearance to do that after Red essentially yells at his mom to get her to like let Sarika do her dang job and help people, because you can't have the foreign doctor lady do stuff because they might hurt the kid somehow, because witchcraft. Yeah. Honestly. It's like at that point, if you don't do anything, or if you keep doing whatever it is that you're doing that's obviously not working, both parties involved are probably gonna die. So, like, you might as well, you know? You might as well just work with what you got and let the, resident person who, like, saved your head of household from, like, either dying or going into, like, massive septic shock or losing a leg. Just let whoever that is, which, happens to be the 14-year-old that just got brought into the house, let that person like go help the medical things maybe as a thing, yeah. But it's what it is, I guess. Yeah. So, uh, kid is very much in like respiratory distress when he's born. Because there's no breathing going on. So she gets him breathing. It's fine. He's doing his thing and seems to be a nice, happy little kid. So that's all set up, and we're good on that, right? Now, fast forward a little bit. So we've got John and Marjorie's kid, who is Johnny, or like, yeah, it'd be Johnny in this. Now, incidentally, I remember Johnny's story more than this one. So if I'm remembering right, that's the second in the trilogy. But different story for another time, perhaps. We'll see how stuff goes. But yeah, if y'all want to see more of the trilogy or more of like any of them that we've done really that have that are part of a series, like we can totally talk about doing that. Yeah, so there is that. Hey, welcome to the shenanigans. I currently have a sleeve and a front and a back, so like, yeah, fun stuff. How are you, lovely beings, today? Sorry we were in the shower. Hey, no worries. No worries at all. Yeah. The jaw's doing better, just like as a recap for anyone coming in. Jaw's doing better, but I'm still feeling it, so the heat pack might make an appearance in the not too long. But tis a positive, so I counted a win on that one. Yeah. Yeah. Good to hear that you're doing okay. One sec. Alright. Okay. So far we've done a bit of a recap from last week, and a note that Sorcha's waiting for her brothers to show, and kind of panicking about it, but also not because magic, but kind of, sort of, yeah. Switched to reading with our eyes because we realize the narrator always sounds distressed, even during the chill parts, and that's distressing. Understandable. Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely a thing that I noticed. Which, like, for the parts that's the feeling being conveyed, yeah, totally. But totally understandable. Yeah. So, before we dive into further analyses, y'all have, like, observations you want to share, or just jump into the discuss? Also, just as a thing, I updated the trigger warning bit for today because, like, it's not discussed on page per se, but there's discussions of PTSD related to previously mentioned trauma. So, yeah. It'll be up in the little thing up here when that's relevant. Richard does super creep again. He is. He's. Oh, God. Honestly. Like, dude. Dude. Can you not, man? Like, on top of everything else, right? Like, he is creepy as hell. But, like, there's a part in there where he's sexualizing his own kid. It's like, I mean, we knew that you were, like, real gross, but, like, this is a new low, man. Come on. Like, seriously. Ugh. Okay. Okay. That's not how that was supposed to go. Okay. 1 second. Because I know that I'm going to just end up fiddling with stuff, or do something productive with my, like, anxiety finger time. Ah. What's that? Yeah. Just. Alright. So, we've got Richard being creepy as hell. And everyone else being either scared, you know, being either afraid of him enough to not do anything, or like they don't see it, or figure whatever creepy behavior is warranted for some bullshit reason, or something. But yeah, there we go. And we've got Sorcha trying to help Marjorie in the middle of like it sounds like Marjorie went into labor kind of, if not unexpectedly, then like when they weren't exactly best prepared for it, you know? And Sorcha's the only one in the entire keep that like knows how to deal with a breech birth. Also going on the awareness that like if she happens to not make it so that the kid is like alive and well at the end of this, she's gonna get blamed for it because again, witchcraft. Because obviously that's the reason for literally everything. Yeah. So logic. And she isn't allowed to like help her friend have a kid and like do her job as a medical professional until Red yells at his mom to like get her to stop like blocking the door, essentially, you know? Sorcha's a witch, therefore it's okay to treat her like crap, is the thinking, which is not logical because you don't want to piss off someone with spell powers, right? Right? Like that's something that I've never understood in like lore and stories and stuff. It's like, oh no, the witch has like special super secret powers. She's gonna turn everyone into toads. She's gonna kill everyone. Oh no. Like that's isn't that the person that you want to be friends with? So, like, inevitably when something happens, they, in theory, have you back? They don't want to just be like, yeah, well, not my problem, is it? Like, you know? Or, like, end up actively trying to work against you? Like, that just seems counterintuitive, you know? As a thing, right? Like, that just seems like that's not a big brain move there. It's not. The midwife is also not that good, it seems. Yeah, seriously. Like, I realize that different cultures, different groups and stuff would have different approaches to medicine. Just like there's a scene at the end of 9, I think. I think it's the end of 9. Was it 10? Okay, yeah, it's the end of 10, where Sorcha's trying to deal with the differences in funerary practices and stuff, and there's like stark differences between like Irish and, or well, between the people of Ayr and the Britons. Because at that point, it's not described as Ireland. It's Ayr and the people of Ayr. So yeah, same region, but like naming conventions and all that. Also, they're if they're going over the shortest point, really, between Ireland and England, really, because it would be south of the Wall, so England. It'd be between Northern Ireland, which is where Sevenwaters is meant to be taking place, and Northern England, thereabouts. Oh, yeah. But also, yeah, the midwife that they've got doesn't seem to be all that great there. Like, just as a thing, right? You're a rural farming community, essentially, because everyone was a farming community at that point. I know that delivering a human and delivering, like, a calf are two very different things. But if you're in a farming setting, you gotta have at least had a few, like, issues with, like, a breech birth or a misaligned umbilical cord or something at some point. So why are they all, like, completely shocked and unable to do much of anything when it comes to the kid? Because, like, that seems like a thing that a midwife, if she's, any good, would be aware of, you know? Or at least someone in the community should be able to deal with or something. Should have been able to tell that the baby was the wrong way around. Yeah, yeah. So, but no, of course, it's the witch that is like 14. That's totally to blame for everything. basically. That makes sense. Like, what? Seriously? Ugh. Alright. Okay, so we've got yeah, all this is happening on midwinter. So yeah, okay. So so baby Jamie um and Sorcha have the same birthday, which is cool. That's the thing. And then you've also kind of got the parallel of like, well, her mom died in childbirth, and she was able to save her friend who had a kid on midwinter, but um, John dies in the next chapter, so there's that. Yeah, and I'm not gonna get into the follow-ups on that, but um, the kid's story, like I was thinking about it, and the kid's story is what I remember the most out of the trilogy, I think. So yeah, yeah, yeah. It like I was trying to okay. I was trying to continue the whole like sculptural whatever, but A, it's a knitted sweater that Orion wears, so like just as a thing. But I was also talking to some friends, and it's just like the easiest way to make a sweater is to just do some like a couple squares and a rectangle. You know that, right? Weird. So yeah, yeah. Um, it's leagues easier for me to knit like rectangular shapes than it is to crochet them. Just like I have a massive problem time when I'm supposed to like knit sculptural things, but yeah, because like I can do ribbing in knit work and and all kinds of stuff perfectly fine, but try and get me to do that in crochet, and it doesn't quite go so well. But yeah, that's the lighter green sleeve. So yeah. I'm just glad that we had the needles to work with. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Alright. So also it's interesting that like she has this assumption that because the Britons are Britons, they don't Like, obviously, they don't do the big celebratory bonfires and stuff. They do stuff inside, so therefore it'd be easier to slip out and hang with the brothers. Which, like, cultural exchange is such that I I don't know how accurate that would be to, like, historical situations. Like, perception wise, yeah, totally. Like, we do this, they're obviously different to us, therefore, they probably don't do the things that we do. Fair. Fair assessment. Just like, but the the fair folk are our people, so why are they talking to this dude? Versus like they live literally everywhere, so eh, this dude happens to be here, so like he's relevant to the plot line, so we'll talk to him. Which is incidentally what tends to happen as far as I've seen. It's like uh but why are you bugging this random person? Reasons. Uh okay, Norwegian knitting. Alright. I will definitely check that out. I've been wanting to look up. I can never remember how to pronounce it. Like the closest that I can ever come is like nail binding. That's like pre-crochet with, a needle that's got some thread, yarn, whatever, threaded through it. Um, but I don't think I've seen Norwegian knitting exactly. That sounds cool. Uh, where was I? I don't remember. Oh yeah. So, we've got Sorcha, being Faye because the plotline requires it. Makes us think of the muses. That's an interesting connection. It is though. It is. Like, well, I mean, there's this dude who is in the right place at the right time, slash, we kind of rerouted the roads so that he would be here when he's supposed to be. So, yeah. Imagine that! Like, uh, seriously, like, at least half of the stories that I've heard over the years of like interactions with fae slash otherworldly beings is just like because I could. So what are you gonna do? Uh, just happen to be here because we arranged it. Total coincidence. Exactly. Exactly. Like imagine that. Yeah, no, it's yeah, there's a freak rainstorm. Shocking. Oh, you met interesting people? That's great. You're going on a quest with them? Okay. Like, uh, Seriously. Not all the time, but in stories at least, that seems to be kind of a prominent thing, or just like intentionally screwing with the characters to prove that they can, so the characters then, don't cross them again, which is always nice. Fans, DMs, picture it. I mean, where's the lie though? Like, seriously, where is the lie? Alright, so, back to book shenanigans. We've got Sorcha popping some lavender in fire to kind of have a more calming atmosphere, which, like, just as a thing, right? That would not work on me. I can say that much right now. There are very few times that I can be around lavender and have it not be an issue. As a plant, it's great. Lavender growing, or lavender that has been harvested and it's just kind of chilling somewhere, that's cool. You try and burn it, and I'm there, and we're gonna have issues. Yeah, it's not like full death like it would be for eucalyptus, but it's there. uh, there's at least essence of no. Uh, Good thing no one has allergies to this book, right? Right. It's like, there's some things that, like, yeah, very historically accurate, and then there's some things that it's like, okay, but I know that, like, anaphylaxis isn't just a modern thing. It's not. There's things that people have had long-standing reactions to over the centuries, so, no, I don't know. But, like, hopefully the environments are similar enough that, like, you at least know the things that you can't do and whatever. Allergen is essence of no. We like this terminology. Yeah. Essence of no with a side of why and how come. Uh, Seriously, people have started, like, well, not started so much, but, like, if someone finds out that I can't eat certain things, it's like, oh, but why though? Like, because pain and death. That usually stops them from asking too many random stupid questions about it. It's like, no, I don't want to go into my full medical history about why I can't have wheat and dairy. A. Ew. B. None of your business. And C. I should be able to get out of eating something if I just say, nah, I'm good, I don't want it. You know? Without having to, like, disclose the full medical basis of why, like, cheesecake in me is a bad idea. But there you go. Ugh. Okay. Um. I meant to look that up. So the words are things. Yes. Okay. So Sirika's making up a tea infusion thing to kind of give her an extra boost of energy because she's exhausted at this point. Because like they waited until she was practically dead to like get a second opinion from like the resident person who sewed up their like head of house's leg so we didn't die of sepsis or have to get an amputation and then maybe die of sepsis or something in a cave. Ugh, honestly. Come on, man. Just the logic. The jumps of logic. With medical things in this. Like, really? Come on now. Okay, it's Speedwell. Okay. So I've never heard it referred to as Brookline. But come on. I'm trying to paste. There we go. Relaxing the muscles and giving energy boost is tough. Those are usually opposites. Yeah. So, okay. When I hear the phrase an herb of last resort, what I'm picturing is heroic medicine. Generally, heroic medicine falls into the category of it's something that's highly toxic, but it might work or it might kill you. Mistletoe tends to be part of that category because it's been used to treat like cancers and other things, but it has certain like toxic properties that if you have certain conditions and you take some, or if you have too much in too frequent doses, it could have like massive negative issues and whatnot. You look up brooklime and it's an edible plant that you can eat like watercress, but it just doesn't taste very nice. Um, yeah. Brooklime was one of the three traditional antiscorbutic herbs alongside scurvy grass and watercress used in purported remedies for scurvy. However, none of these herbs are rich in vitamin C, and the usual preparation by extracting juices would have destroyed most of their content. rendering the preparations ineffectual against true scurvy. So more than one bookline. Yeah, well, maybe. Okay. There's multiple speed wells, which, based on the name, it's meant to speed your recovery. That's why it's called that. The European speedwell is Veronica Becabunga, or Brooklime. Far as I can tell, that's the only one bearing that particular name. Yeah. Yeah. Brooklime was used as a salad plant in much of Northern Europe. Used to be eaten with watercress and oranges to help prevent scurvy. So, like, I don't quite know what it's meant to be doing in this context. Cause, like, okay. Calamine. Okay. People use calamine for infection of the airways, insomnia, depression, seizure disorder, epilepsy, gout, and other conditions. So, like, alright. That one, if you're having, like, issues with contractions and issues with, like, respiratory stuff or whatever, that I can see being a thing, right? But past that, we've got, what is it? Thyme, that's like an antimicrobial, like, um, antifungal sort of thing. Calamine, that's like respiratory issues. And Brooklime, an herb of last resort that's like to prevent scurvy, but it doesn't really do that because you have to juice it, and if you do that, then it doesn't have the stuff for the scurvy or vitamin C. But you can eat it with salad, as salad, and stuff. What? It's meant to sound good. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like, ahem. Ahem. Questions? Right. So, meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Sorcha's freaking out that she's missing her brothers, who are obviously at the river because that's the only body of water that's nearest where she is. And, like, runs out as dawn's trying to break, finds the water, and there's, like, no people footprints, there's no swan footprints, there's nothing. And, again, freaking out. Enjoying knitting needle enhanced gestures. Right? Like, unintentional, but like, I'm kind of digging it, so we'll just keep going there. Ah, so yes, we've got Marjorie and son John We're fine. They're cool. They're recovering. They're fine. And it's interesting because like there's a lot of ow. I'm wearing thin leggings and stabbed myself in the thigh. That was a bad idea. Okay. I'll put that. You know what? There we go. I'll just go back to doing this, because, like, less likely to stab myself while actually using the needles as they're meant to be used. Yeah, so there's a lot of stories about people turning into plants. Whether it's, they've annoyed someone and got turned into a tree, or in the case of Narcissus, kept staring at his reflection and turned into a flower. Mostly it's like you've annoyed some deity and like get turned into a plant. Midwife also clearly didn't know baby CPR, or that sometimes babies, especially breech births, still have mucus plugs in the lungs. Yeah, like in their nose that need to be removed. Seriously, it's like, no, you're killing the kid. Like, there's literally no movement at all happening. So like either let the person who seems to know what they're doing continue doing something, or like you're not gonna have a kid that's alive. So again, midwife, what are you doing? Like, from the sounds of it, she's been in that position for a while. So like either the place has like really good records of everyone being completely fine and no medical complications at all, or it has a insanely high mortality rate for infants, because that seems like a pretty basic thing, right? Just as a thing. Like, I realize that CPR is a relatively new concept in the capacity that it's in, and a lot of the, like, adapted medical knowledge and stuff, like the more high-tech medical knowledge that Sorcha has, that the Britons don't have, could in theory be explained by like, this person's from a different society. But like, also, which, on top of everything else, right? I know it's in the next chapter, but just as a thing, she's obviously a medical professional, right? Obviously. She's sewn up Red's leg, delivered a kid that had a more complicated birth than the midwife knew what to deal with, and is working on like a complex very taxing, like, weaving sewing project. And Lady Anne comes in here all, like, bent out of shape, that Sorcha has a hard time doing, like, fine motor, like, tiny stitches with a practically invisible needle. Like, I mean, it's obvious that you're just looking for things to get mad about, but you might want to be a little more subtle about it, just a little bit, just a little bit, you know? Like, what are you doing? Come on now. Ugh. Okay, one sec. Also, the whole "you'll make yourself useful" thing goes against Fred's specific instructions that she's a guest and not to be put to work. Yeah, exactly. It's like, um, actually, I don't know. There's a whole thing of it. Um, oh, okay, that's not how that goes. All right, one second. Why? All right. Um. It also speaks to that Sorcha had drastically different upbringing than most girls of her class. In some ways, she's severely handicapped by that. Yeah, no, totally. Totally. Like, there's some things that, like, she's massively exceeding any kind of expectation for. And there's some that it's like, um, yeah, might need to know that a little bit. But yeah. Okay, so there's a point that, yeah, with the whole turning into plant material and stuff. After Johnny's born, Sorcha runs out to the river to try and find any kind of evidence that her brothers were there. No footprints, no anything. And beats her hands against one of the willows. Which, we've got the representation of the weeping willow, because they tend to be associated with, grief and mourning and loss and everything else, but also like longevity and new life and stuff, depending on context and placement and everything else there. But that's one of the reasons that they are more often seen in like cemeteries or like funerary it's not representation, it's not depictions, iconography, sort of, maybe. It's not the word I was looking for, but it works. And you see it a lot with like headstones and things like that. And there's a statement in there. It's like, perhaps I'd become a weeping tree girl, which is a thing. Like in some of the legends, women who have been like weeping have turned into trees, specifically the willows. Or, well, in that one, in the particular one that I read, it was one of Apollo's kids wanted to drive his chariot and ended up crashing, and Apollo saved the kid, but the place that had been crashed into was pretty well decimated. So Zeus killed the kid, and all of the kid's sisters were understandably distraught, you know? And someone turned them all into poplar trees, which is like the weeping willow. In that context. Yeah. And I couldn't find anything, but okay. I remember reading about someone who was turned into a reed or turned into reeds, and then someone would pluck the reeds and play play the reeds, and it would like echo the voice of the person that had been turned into the reeds. but I don't know if it was from this, from that one little passage in there, or if it was something else. Because, like, I know the bone harp is a thing that's kind of a recurring, not a recurring character per se, but a recurring situation in certain parts of, like, Celtic storylines, as we saw with Wolfskin. But, like, I don't remember, like, partly because I don't remember most of the story, but I don't exactly know where my brain sourced it from, so be that as it may. You hadn't heard the Apollo story? Yeah, I was checking stuff because it sounded familiar this morning, so I was checking it and found that. I'll pop it in the Discord if I can remember. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So. Off the top of my head, I don't remember which side goes where, but, like, that's what we've got so far. So, like, now he just needs a collar. Yes. Very much yay. Okay. Just so I don't stab myself. I'll put those up there. Alright. Oh yeah, and in Richard's long laundry list of, like, reasons to A, not trust, and B, dude's a dick, of unmitigated proportions. Not only is he real creepy and tries to manufacture reasons to, like, try and get Sorcha alone, creepy enough as it is. One of his archers, who, all of these dudes are adept enough at what they do to, like, fully blend into the forest and disappear, right? Like, Sorcha doesn't know that they're there until Richard signals them and, like, 10 dudes come out of the forest. Or however many there are. But, like, the idea that someone, what was it? Misfired or whatever, and shot Alice. Yeah, it's a big red flag. Big red flag. And then this dude just busts out a knife, like, oh yeah, no, let me help. Like, no, I'll help. Like, I'm obviously better at this. Like, I'll just do it. No, it's fine. It's fine. Like, dude, keep your creepy ass over there. Like, ew, no. No. But like I did appreciate the description here though, where Erica's talking about Richard talking and stuff, and just like his voice was like honey, like syrup, with a generous dash of nightshade thrown in. Note that he says he'll talk to the archer, but not that he'll punish or reprimand him. It'll probably actually be a reward. Yeah, no, totally. Totally. From what I know of, like, okay, what we know of Richard and how he seems to interact with people, it was probably like, alright, only one of you is allowed to shoot, but like, talk amongst yourselves, and like, if you get a shot, like, whoever hits the dog in a ideally not fatal manner, gets X prize. Seriously, there's some people. Why? Just why? And like, I know part of it, right? I know part of it is Sorcha is a foreigner, and the Britons and the Irish have kind of more or less been at war for a while. Mostly because the Britons came in and the Irish were like, nah, but, you know, there we go. And the Britons were like, yeah, but we're here, so this is ours now. And the Irish were like, how about no? Stabby stab. Because we live here already. How about that? So, like, of course, the Irish are, like, totally, barbaric and, like, lawless people because, you know, reasons. So, like, if this thing has been going on for seemingly generations at this point, I can understand Lady Anne being, like, kind of standoffish to someone from the area that, like, her son disappeared in. But also, one must dehumanize one's enemy, can't be having nuance, at least comparison and understanding and such like, right? Right? It's like, can't have that pesky, like, understanding of one's, partner in conflict. No, that's preposterous. Ew. Can't have that. Oh, yeah. But it's like, how much of Anne's reactions to Sorcha are her own like, responses and how much is because Richard has been, like, speaking in her ear about, like, the what, the horrible witch that her son was enchanted by, so had to bring back from Ireland. Because that makes sense. Like, totally. Just as a logistical thing, like, why would that be the go-to? Especially after, like, Ben and John were just like, I mean, we kind of made her come, so. Like, we kind of made her come back with us. We didn't really give her an option and just, like, chill in the forest, so, like. The Irish killed her son, according to Richard. Yeah, yeah. Which, like, I get having that response and stuff. And then you have the whole fun thing of Richard probably, likely, most definitely, um, somehow organizing for his nephew to get captured slash disappear slash just get dead because reasons. Like, seriously, I mentioned it before you guys came in, but you would think, right? Like, Richard's putting himself forward as this, like, genius tactician, okay? Who is part of an invading force to claim land for their people. That's his MO that he's trying to push for people, right? That's his thing. And this is the same dude whose entire company was objectively annihilated by the locals, who he's trying to paint as, like, inferior, what, dudes with, like, a couple of sticks and a pitchfork or whatever that are just running around, like, being completely unresponsive to human life, essentially. And put his nephew, who was, like, from all accounts, the youngest in the entire company, because the kid was 16 on his first campaign, as the sole lookout upon entering enemy territory. And then proceeds to blame the kid for everyone dying. Except, him, because he got out somehow. And no one thinks to question this but Red. Seriously. Like, bruh, you right here? You're being, like, it's not even like you're being suspicious. Like, it looks like you killed your people and are blaming it on your 16-year-old nephew who's probably been dead for like 2 years. Like, what? Like, at that point, it sounds like. Because I fully do not remember any of this section, right? So, just that right there, and what I know of, like, military tactics and stuff, and how slimy this, like, asshole is, it sounds like Mr. I wasn't there because I was being a military genius somewhere else, dude. Either had one of the guys, like, dress up in, like, local garb, or he himself dressed up in, like, local garb, or was, like, I don't know, made himself look all beat up or whatever, went to find a patrol and was like, oh no, there's this, like, bunch of people over there, yeah, you need to go, like, interrogate them and stuff, and, yeah, I would not be surprised, at all. At all. Like, why? Because war. Seriously. Like, there's there's times that, like, especially when I'm reading historical fiction, there's particular names that stick out, and the only Richard that's coming to mind really is Lionheart, which I know had issues just because, but, like, very definitely not this dude. So, there's that. Zero military experience, and even we know putting Simon on watch by himself was super sus. Yeah, no, seriously. Seriously. You do not put the greenhorn on watch by himself. Just point blank. Like, if there's like 2 or 3 watch posts around the camp, and you have like the green dude just chilling in the middle by the fire to be like an extra backup or something, yeah, totally. Cool. Whatever. But the sole lookout when everyone else is asleep, like, that really, that right there is just, that's a recipe for getting your entire troop killed. Richard II was the vain asshole who drove his country into the ground. Alright, there we go. Yeah. We'll go with that one. At least according to the Shakespearean play. Yeah, no, I believe it. I mean, dude like to embellish stuff sometimes, but from what I know of, yeah, that it's pretty accurate, probably. Yeah. Mhm. Honestly, in short, Richard, Red's uncle, is a massive dick in all of the bad ways. Pun intended. Didn't catch it the first time I said that, but, like, there we go. and now I've got like random eyelashes just trying to impale my eyeball because obviously I'm trying to like have a serious discussion about book things. Like ocular annihilation is the way to go. There we go. I think I've got all of them. We honestly don't remember if he gets comeuppance at the end, and we really hope he does. I want to say that he does at some point, because that seems like a familiar plotline, but it might just be that, like, I really want it to happen at this point, because the dude is out. Oh, okay. The dude is, like, not fit for, like, human interaction, like, honestly. Yeah, eyelashes can be very stabby. The eyebrow hairs tend to, like, just kind of stay where they are, but, like, the eyelashes, they're ninjas. It's like, they're there, they're chilling, and then all of a sudden, like, there's a pop, and then they try and kill you. It's not fun. Alright, okay. So we've got, that's the end of 9. So we've got chapter 10 starting with, Richard, leaving the it's not a castle, I can never remember the term, it's not a keep. The complex, I suppose? Because presumably they're in the, like, they're in a valley, but from the sounds of it, they're in a estate. There we go. Because, like, a keep is generally, like, the top of a hill, or top of a mountain type situation, with, like, strategic outlooks. Come on. Which is, incidentally, where castles tend to be situated, just from strategic defense value. But, yeah. So, Richard leaves the estate, and Sorcha starts seeing elements of like elements of things that remind her of dealing with Lady Una before she had to flee Sevenwaters, with, you know, things going missing, or the one dress that she had getting things spilled on it and having to get washed, and it comes back and it's like unwearable because there's stains and stuff all over it and whatnot. And surprised Red let any of Richard's people stay behind. Guess he thought he could keep an eye on them. Yeah, that by itself, right? Like, the idea that's like, okay, I can't trust my uncle, but maybe, like, I could keep an eye on, like, these one or two people that he's left behind, and that ends up causing one of his best friend's deaths. Just, and of course everyone blames Sorcha, because, obviously. Which, like, I can understand partly of if she hadn't needed to go get supplies, then they wouldn't have been in that situation. But if it wasn't then it would have been something else. Because kind of 98.5% sure that, like, dude didn't just spontaneously get stuck in an avalanche. Rockfall? There we go. Didn't get stuck in a rockfall, but, like, caused it somehow, and now John's dead. So, that. And probably, it was probably intended to be for John and Sorcha. Just cuz. Like, Sorcha only moved out of the way, like, because like, the Spidey sense said something. Pretty sure Richard's man caused it. Yeah. Seriously. Especially because the dude just, like, skedaddled afterwards. Like, honestly, it would have been less suspicious if he was somehow injured in the thing and was still there. Like, oh no! Something happened! Ah, my leg! Like, you would be less suspicious to just, like, stay on site than to just off to nowhere. You know? Come on. Honestly. And the spontaneous combustion fire that was basically just Sorcha stuff. You know? That, yeah, not suspicious at all. Totally tracks. And the idea that, like, that was supposed to be incentive to, like, send her off to stay with Richard. Because, you know, obviously, I mean, it's just bad for the people. It's bad. What? Honestly, what? Come on. And okay, so I'm gonna, yeah, spark from the fire that our stuff is nowhere near started in. Right. Yeah, totally makes sense. Yeah. 10 out of 10 logic there. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna touch on it, but it's from what I remember, it's relevant to the development of the plotline and how she's interacting with um how she's further interacting with, like, the male members of the household and stuff. So we've got PTSD discussion related to the sexual assault that was discussed in chapter 6, I want to say. So, just the context for the next, like, couple minutes. If you need to mute it or click off or whatnot, I'm going to try and keep it to, like, 5 minutes or under. So, this will disappear when the topic changes if you need to mute. Which you totally get. Take care of yourselves. Yeah. So, there we go. Like, I know that it's probably just general discussions between the women folk leading up to a wedding. That's never been a thing that I've been part of, but, you know, apparently that's a thing of, like, sharing body stories and making comments about the prospective parties involved and their intimate relationships, which is just, it's a weird thing. It's like, it's kind of understandable in a way, but it's kind of also real weird. So I don't know. On that one. But the rest of the group, A, doesn't want Sorcha there to begin with, and B, seems to actively, if not enjoy, then like it's not a hindrance to them to negatively impact how she's perceived or how she's interacting with people and stuff. And so there's that layer of like, it's not like she can just say like, guys, can you, this is an issue, can you maybe tone it down a little bit or something. If you think about it, bachelor and bachelorette parties are real weird too. Yeah, no, totally. Like, yeah, seriously, it's kind of a bizarre concept, especially with that. If it's like the last hurrah, it's like, what are you gonna do, dude? Like, the number of times that I've seen people and it's like, oh yeah, no, like we're not married yet, so it's not really cheating if I just like go out and do something. Like, it's my last night as a single person. Like, you're literally getting married. You realize that, right? If you need a last hurrah thing where like you go out and bang some random person, because like you think that marriage is gonna be the most boring, like annoying thing ever. Like, why are you doing it, dude? Like, what? Why are you two together? If like that's how you're entering into the like contracted legal portion of your relationship. Like, why? Come on. What? Like, like, y'all have issues, man. Come on. But it, between, like, okay, getting back to, yeah, this bit up here, right? It seems like, because Richard kept bringing it up, right? And everyone has seen how Sorcha kind of shies away from certain people or engaging in certain actions and stuff. And she was what would it have been? Okay, yeah. It was probably after this, but like she was visibly uncomfortable trying on Marjorie's dress that she made for her, which like the thing looked great from the description, and everyone thought she looked really cool. But it was too exposing, and it was too triggering. So she couldn't handle it, and ended up, what was the chest at the end of her bed held the lives of her family, because that's where the shirts are being stored. So she has up to that point she had almost 5, but one got torched and stuff, so like 4.5 now. And the dress. So it's kind of like she can't fully live until the rest of them can, which is both symbolic and like literal. Like that's what she's doing with the weaving and the sewing and everything is all encompassing until such a time as that's not, excuse me, until that's not a concern anymore. And until that point, until she can just take time to recover in all conceivable ways, the dress is gonna just stay there. Yeah. I'd forgotten about that part. Alright. Yeah, got it. I'm not gonna say it because it's a plot point, but like, I remembered a thing! And it's cool. But yeah. So, Richard takes like any possible chance that he can to make her really uncomfortable. And when she's in a situation that's in any way like close to dudes, even if it's just Red just hanging out, it can go from perfectly fine to really feeling unsafe really fast, which is totally understandable because triggers are weird and activate sometimes. And then she's sitting in a room trying to work on this project that is causing massive like physical and like physical pain, is tied to like severe emotional pain for what it is and what she needs to do, and like the psychological pain of like having to keep everything in and not being able to talk about anything that she's had to go through and all that. And across the room, hearing about like these ladies like loudly talking about the virile attributes of Red and Elaine, yeah, and like repeatedly ad nauseum, and it seems like they notice that she's having a reaction to stuff and just keep on keeping on because like, well, she's just, one of those foreigner people that like we don't have to treat like an actual human because like witchcraft. Which again, why if you think that someone's all like powerful and stuff, like why are you being all antagonistic and actively trying to like trigger the uncomfy things? You know? Why is that your plan right now? Just just wondering. Cause that sounds like a bad idea. Just full stop. As a thing. You know? But yeah, so that's all of that. So, do we have any, like, further observations for that component, or can I take this down? Which, yeah, just as a thing, having a little trigger box up there, very useful. It's gonna remain in there. Because, yeah, seriously. We figure that if the women noticed her discomfort and put it down to Sorcha being jealous of Elaine. Yeah, that too. That too. It at that point it could be either or both, really. But yeah, that has a validity to it. There. Yeah. Which, like, also, just on that, Elaine is like they've been engaged for a while, and seem to have some kind of decent relationship. They're at least friends. And Serica's just over here like trying to not freak out about stuff and wanting her friends to be happy. So like, why is it that everyone in the entire like estate seems to be thinking that she's like a threat to stuff? You know, like I realize that Red is the love interest, and there's like there's stuff going on, and other characters have talked to Red, and he's probably said stuff and whatever else. But like, just as an outsider perspective, like this dude has been dating his cousin, which is a weird concept, honestly. uh, for an extended period of time. They're engaged. They're gonna get married in a couple of months. And, like, oh no. He's been friendly with this other person who has literally no family and was brought in and is hanging out and stuff. So, like, obviously they're a threat. Like, I understand it to a degree, but also. While we get the PTSD tunnel vision, we also sometimes want to yell at her that people can treat you decently without being enchanted. Seriously! Oh, God. Seriously. Like, that right there is definitely not a bit that I remember from the original read through. Which would make sense because it falls under the category of like the magical mystical stuff that apparently just doesn't exist in the version that I've got in my brain already. Which is fun. Seriously, there's dudes that transform into swans, but like the rest of the magic part is like gone. I don't what? It's like it's the book is slowly repopulating as I'm listening to it, but it's still freaking weird. And yet it's fine and good that Red has supposedly had sex with a village girl or two. Yeah, no, totally, totally. Like, what? What are you doing? Like, honestly, honestly, with this, like, I just, and again, like, I know that like BS hypocrisy and stuff is very much a thing. It has been a thing. It is historically and contemporarily a thing when it comes to like the sex lives of people in positions of power and all that. But also, can we maybe not with that? Yeah. Yeah. Alright. So that's the conclusion of that particular I'm gonna take this bit down. So if you need to, or if you needed to mute it, um, if you needed to mute it, we're back and carrying on with the shenanigans. Oh. Okay, so, like, okay, I understand the actions taken against the dogs in this story because they directly impact Sorcha. Like, you know, Lynn was trying to defend her, and Alice being what was it? Yeah, it was just like a week or something difference here. Like she gets shot in the shoulder, and then what? She's in the middle of recovery, still trying to like deal with everything and the trauma of being shot with an arrow, and some Yahoo decides to like keep her confined somewhere for an entire day and shave a like anti-witch symbol on her back. For no other reason than it would mess with Sorcha. Like, I would say, like, why? But that's very much a thing that people do to mess with humans. Yeah, take it out on their critters. And, well, the animals can't talk. But, like, why, though? Why you gotta go that route? You know? Come on now. Um, and then we've got John being killed by the rockfall, and Sorcha ends up blaming herself both for the fire in the long room, so the fire where her stuff was on fire and stuff, and John's death, because she essentially told the spirit world to leave Red alone because he was having like it wouldn't be a crisis of conscience. It'd be like they were messing with his dreams, so he was getting real bad sleep and just like not doing good. And he was trying to process stuff because like that was the first that he'd ever had to deal with it. And she was trying to make it easier on him, and sees it as like, oh well, you wanted us to leave him alone, well your friend's dead now, so have fun with that. Which, like, I realize is a thing in certain storylines, but also, jeez. And then there's commentary about the Britons versus the people of air and funerary rites. Because what I know historically for funerary practices for this region is a lot more in line with what Sorcha's describing for Ireland, and what we see displayed by the Britons is a little bit more in line with like the Christian side of it, which would also kind of explain it, because we've got the difference between the Christian English side and the pagan Irish side. So you have like just a somber wake versus like a ruckus celebration of life, and telling stories about the person and lighting bonfires to help this person's spirit like enter the afterlife with any offerings, any foodstuffs or anything to help the journey along. And I didn't end up writing down the list of things, but she ends up like, because she was the last one to see him alive, Marjorie ends up like asking her to come talk to her, and with Red interpreting, she's able to tell Marjorie like everything that John was trying to say in the last moments. Like, you know, tell her I love her, and and that I know she's gonna raise our kid well, and tell him stories about me. And knowing that she's the only one who is going to do any kind of like ritual for John, she waits until everyone's asleep and no one's watching, and Ben is just kind of passed out on a bench, so isn't gonna mess with her or anything. And puts together a special like end of life send off ritual for John, and make sure to clean up everything, and so there's like no traces or anything. At the end of it, before dawn, and by that point she's just kind of existing in her own little bubble and not interacting with everyone. Like she still kind of she interacts with people in so much as her presence is kind of required at meals, but that's about it. Like she doesn't talk to anyone. Her only real friends were Red, John, Ben, and Marjorie. And Marjorie's not talking to her because John's gone, and the rest of the household is just in the middle of like grief spiral at the moment and trying to get ready for a wedding. So she's just kind of left her own devices and trying to speedrun the last two shirts. And then like that's the end of 10, and then chapter 11 opens with May Eve. So yeah. Yeah, okay, Beltane. Doing that ritual when suspected of witchcraft was very risky. Yeah, it's one of those that like it's real risky, which just reinforces how important it is for her. Like, which is interesting too, because like John is British. Like John's one of the Britons, so doesn't follow her like prescribed traditions. So it's one of those interesting things of like, in my culture you have to do this at this time. It's important because otherwise the spirit is stuck in their place of death. Kind of. They would have to wander until the next big thing. Versus like my friend's culture requires that X, Y, and Z be done, and their wishes aren't being respected, so therefore I, as the only friend here who knows how to do that, needs to do the thing. So it's like it's an interesting situation, right? Where like it's important enough and like pivotal enough that she feels the need to go against her own like safety, but it's for her. She's the only one there that follows those particular observances. Like, yeah, the ritual was more for her than for John, who was probably fine with the Christian observances. Yeah, yeah. Which, like, she hasn't heard the other world talk to her since she got to Britain, aside from like a few like random side comments. So it could be like a grounding sort of thing within that. But also, like, it's from the sounds of it, and from what I know of funerary practices and stuff, it looks like that's the only way she could fully express the grief of losing a friend and losing, like, any connection to anyone else in the estate. So it was like, I it was a remembrance, but also like a grief processing thing for her. And also, if John's spirit happened to be just kind of kicking around, like, well, here you go. But yeah, interesting things that. So that's all the notes that I've got for today. Yeah. So with that said, um, anyone else have further observations or not? I think that pretty much covers it. Alright. So there's that. Okay. Cool. Alright, so for next week, we go with 11 and 12. Yeah, 11 and 12. Okay. So, For anyone just coming in, this is the end of today's stream. But if you want to join in next week, we've got chapters 11 and 12 of Daughter of the Forest that will be discussed. Same day, same time, Monday, 4-ish to whatever time this is, 7. So yeah, had to check how much was left first as the book climaxes. We might want to pick up the pace. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, sounds good. We'll see how it goes though. Alright. So with that, I know I need some food. I don't know about the rest of you, but yeah. And there's that. Have a fabulous rest of your day. I hope you're all doing well. And we'll see you all later. There we go. I'll see you all later. Have a great rest of your day. Thursdays, we're going to be doing something. Might well just be making some clothes for this dude. Might be something else. I don't know at this point. Have a good one. Bye, everybody. Oh, yes. Can't forget the hugs. Hugs for everybody. Alright. Have a good one. I'll see you all later. Bye now.